I am Miss Hill, and I'm here to say, let's open up book and read today. Books are hip, they're cool, books will help you in school. If you read with me, here's what we'll do. I find reading fun with you. Hi, I'm Miss Hill, and I'm here to say, let's read together every day. The DP Kids, written by Thelma Daniels. Tay, Te, and Paul are all best friends who do everything together. They all go to the same school, Washington Elementary, to the same church, Love Community Church, and they all live in the same diverse neighborhood on Bayfield Drive in Corona, California. Tay and Te are African Americans and are sisters. Tay, which is short for Taylor, is 7 years old, has the model look with different hairstyles, and has multi-sneakers that match all her outfits. She has high energy and sometimes can be a little bossy. She is smart and pretty. Te, which is short for Tiara, is 9 years old. She wears dreadlocks, likes to dress casual in shorts, jeans, color blouses or t-shirt style, and wears high ankle sneakers and boots. She has a calm spirit and is also smart and pretty. Paul is Caucasian. He is 9 years old and tall for his age. He has short black hair and loves to wear shorts and t-shirts. He is smart and handsome, and just like Tay, he can be bossy. They are all close in age. Since Paul is the only boy in the neighborhood, he likes to be in charge over everything. It sometimes upsets Tay because they both have similar personalities. Tay said to Te that she wishes Paul would find some boys he can play with sometime because he always wants to boss them around. Te said, "Yes, but like someone else I know." And they looked at each other. Tay said, "Who is that person?" And they both began to laugh. Tay and Te went to their house and got dressed up in their mom's dresses, high heels, and pretty church hats. Te looked at Tay and said, "As we dress up for Sunday church, I will say a prayer for you and Paul." They both giggled. Tay began to put on a long purple pleated skirt with a black long sleeve pullover silk blouse, black heels, and a wide purple hat. She also put on a short purple necklace and red lipstick on her lips and cheeks. Te put on a long black straight skirt with a royal blue silk blouse, black short sleeve jacket, black heels, black hat with a royal blue band around it, and ruby red lipstick on her lips and cheeks. After they put on their Sunday best, they laughed and modeled throughout the house while their feet were slipping out of their heels from being too big and almost falling because their dresses and skirts were too long. As time went by, they decided to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and drank a large glass of milk. After they completed their lunch, they both decided to go over to Paul's house to see if he wanted to play soccer with them. But before they could get to his house, Paul ran toward them, asking where they had been. He told them that he was looking all over for them, and they were nowhere to be found. He told them that he ran over to their house and rang the doorbell, but he did not see Mrs. Deaver's car in the driveway, so he figured they went somewhere with their mom. He said with a sad voice, "I wish you had come and got me. I would have liked to have gone with you because I had no one to play with. But now that both of you are back, what are we going to do?" Before either of the girls answered, they looked at one another with sadness, thinking they were selfish for wanting to play girly things despite knowing that Paul had no other friends but them to play with. After remembering Paul's question, Te replied to Paul, "We were coming to see if you want to play soccer with us." From being sad to being happy, he said, "Sure, but I am the captain." Tay interrupted him by saying, "Oh, no, you're not. It's my turn to be the captain." Then Tay caught herself as she remembered what Te had said about her and Paul always wanting to be in charge. She inhaled a deep breath and said, "All right, Paul, but next game I will be the captain." As they began playing their soccer game, Te gave a thumbs up, which put a smile on Tay's face. Tay and Te sometimes felt sorry for Paul because his mom and dad died in a car accident and he had no other family. Because of his situation, it led him to be placed in 3 different foster homes, and his third home placement was with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who live on the next block from Tay and Te. Mr. and Mrs. Smith had a son named Jeff, but he died when he was a baby. We do not know how he died, but we would hear our mom and dad say they are praying that God will bless them with another child because they love all the children in the neighborhood and they wanted to have children of their own so bad. Because of Mr. and Mrs. Smith's love for children, they decided to become foster parents to other children who were unfortunate for not having parents for so many different reasons. When Paul came into Mr. and Mrs. Smith's home, he was very angry, not just because he had lost his mom and dad, but also because he was mistreated in the previous foster homes he had lived in. Mr. and Mrs. Smith belonged to the same church we attended, and they both taught Sunday school. Mrs. Smith taught ages 6 to 10 years old, and Mr. Smith taught ages 11 to 13 years old. At first, it was difficult for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Paul as well, to adjust to each other's ways of living style and communication. Mr. and Mrs. Smith always prayed in their home before eating their meals and at bedtime, which Paul was not accustomed to. So he asked Mr. and Mrs. Smith, "Why do you always pray before you eat and before you go to bed?" Mr. Smith replied, "Because Jesus is the one who blesses us with food on our table. It may not be what we want to eat, but we are never hungry. He blesses me with a job so we can live in our own house and not on the streets. He blesses you to have Mrs. Smith at home every day to keep your clothes washed and ironed and give you big hugs when you're not feeling well. And at the end of the day, we pray before we go to bed to thank him for letting us see the entire day without getting hurt, and thank him for not only ourselves, but for our family and friends. It's Jesus' love for us that we are blessed. He chose all of us to come together as a family. You need someone to care for you? Me and Mrs. Smith always believe that children are a blessing and make a home complete. You see, son, Jesus is our main provider, and that is the reason why we always pray in our home." After the conversation, Mrs. Smith smiled at Paul and began to serve her delicious meal that he loved so much: fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, and sweet rolls with a large glass of strawberry Kool-Aid. It was a Saturday afternoon after Tay and Te had finished eating their lunch. They went outside to sit on the porch, and as they were talking, they saw a big moving truck drive up to the vacant house across the street. With their curiosity, Tay said to Te, "I wonder who our new neighbors are." Me to Te replied. As they were watching, they saw a car drive up in front of the house. Then they saw a medium-height, slim African-American man get out of the moving truck that was parked in the driveway. A medium African-American woman got out of the car that was parked in front of the house. Tay and Te were a little disappointed because they were hoping to have new friends that they could play with, specifically another boy in the neighborhood for Paul. As they sat on the porch for another 30 minutes, they both decided to go into the house and watch their favorite television show, SpongeBob. Every Saturday at 5 p.m. in the evening, Paul would always go over to Tay and Te's house. They'd go into the kitchen and make 2 bags of popcorn and a pitcher of strawberry or grape Kool-Aid and place them on separate TV trays and sit on the couch in the playroom while enjoying their snacks. They were all giggling and laughing sometime, expressing themselves on how funny it was by falling and rolling on the floor. After the SpongeBob show went off the air, Tay turned off the television. They all helped clean up the playroom before Paul went home. As Paul was walking out the door, Tay said, "Hey, let's give each other a big hug." After which she told Paul with a smile, "Don't forget to say your prayers before going to bed." He giggled and replied, "I can't forget because my mom is always in the room to make sure I do." He then left out the door and ran to his house for the night. It was Sunday morning, and everyone in the neighborhood attended Love Community Church. It is a church that everyone enjoys. Mrs. Smith is the Sunday school teacher for children 6 to 10 years old. She teaches her lessons with laughter so we can learn about Jesus and helps us want to memorize Bible verses. Whenever there are new neighbors who move into the neighborhood, the Sunday school teacher asks visitors to introduce themselves by giving their name, their age, except for adults, and where they are from. Tay, Te, and Paul always sit in the middle row, side by side of each other. They want to be sure they can see the new kids when they come to the front to introduce themselves to Mrs. Smith and the entire class. Before Mrs. Smith ended the Sunday school class, she announced to the class, "We have visitors with us, and I would like for them to come in front and introduce themselves if they don't mind." Tay, Te, and Paul looked at each other with surprise because by sitting in the middle row, the new visitors who came in late sat in the back row. 3 new visitors, 1 girl and 2 boys, walked up together to the front and stood beside Mrs. Smith. The girl was Asian and very pretty. She had long black hair. She wore a pretty yellow dress with a matching yellow ribbon in her hair. She had on white socks with white shoes. The first boy was Latino, mid-height, with wavy neck-length black hair and very nice looking. He had on blue denim jeans, a short-sleeved plaid shirt with light and navy blue stripes, navy blue socks, and nice black slip-on loafers. The second boy was African-American, tall with a short black haircut and nice looking. He had on navy blue slacks, a blue short-sleeved light blue shirt, black socks, and black slip-on loafers. Mrs. Smith looked at the girl with a smile and said to her, "You are safe with us, so no need for you to be nervous." She then looked at all of us and replied, "Is that right, class?" We all replied, "Yes, Mrs. Smith." She asked in a soft tone, "Would you please give us your name, age, and what area you moved from?" Although she was nervous, she said very loudly, "Hi, my name is Sarah Chambers. I am 7 years old. I was born in Saigon, but my mother and father died. And since I had no other family, I was placed in an orphanage home for 3 years until Mr. and Mrs. Chambers came over to my country and adopted me. I now have an older sister named Amisha who is grown, lives on her own, and has her own business. She is very smart. I also have 2 older brothers. My mom and dad told me they always wanted 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. They told me that since they were getting up in age, they chose to adopt. And when they saw a picture of me in my country as an orphan who was up for adoption, they fell in love with me right away. They flew to my country to sign the adoption papers and brought me here to your beautiful country. I have been in the United States for 2 years, and I am still trying to learn how to speak English, which is very hard language for me right now. But my brothers, Mom and Dad, are helping me every day. I will now let my brothers talk. Hello, my name is Jose Chambers. I am 9 years old. I was also adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Chambers, who are close friends to my real mom and dad. But they both died in a car accident. I'm Latino, but I was born here in California, and that is why I speak fluent English. I was the only child to my parents. Hi, my name is Christian Chambers, but everyone calls me Chris. Mr. and Mrs. Chambers. Want to know what happens next with the kids and the DP kids? Click the link below in the description box to find out how this book ends. I am unique. I am one of a kind. I am me. I am unique. People come in different sizes, different colors, shapes, and names. Although we're different on the outside, inside we are just the same. Press the subscribe button to tune in for the next story time with Miss Hill. Thanks for joining me for today's Read Aloud. Remember, what makes us all different makes us special. You are so special and so loved. Thanks for joining in, and I'll see you next time.